I'm going to discuss the idea um, of what I call a man cave. I think that's the term in contemporary times. Um, but the idea is a secret lair. Now, here's the thing. This idea doesn't really apply when the population increases so much. It really is designed for a time period when the total population is definitely less than 1 billion. Um, the idea is that if you're in a rich family and the population density is much lower than it is this year, um, is that you basically would have like whatever house you live in, you would have like a fence and stuff like that. But why would you have a fence? Why would you have? And that's the thing that's difficult because you would have to have electricity. You would have to figure out how to generate electricity. It's not really about self sustainability. It's about defense. It's like it's kind of like castling, but castles don't have electricity. We have electricity back in no time. We don't really understand um, what people really. I mean, you would have to. That would be a discussion for the historians and the professors, not necessarily for the general public. The idea is that um, you know the idea of it is explored in certain books, particularly The Hobbit, but also, however, I've never read that. I've never watched it, so I prefer a different example from a book that I've actually read. Um, so basically, the idea I've, I've actually taken a class in college that covered the book called The Time Machine. Actually, it basically has a similar idea. It explored the idea of a race of a group of a certain race of a certain species of these creatures. I forgot the name of it. I could put it in the description. They live underground and yeah, basically they have a very similar lifestyle to what I've described. Where basically it's all about defense and they're not really like particularly interested in. I mean, like describe that there's a species that prefers to um, live underground, and there's species that prefer to live above ground. So the idea of it, I can't grasp what the name of this concept is, but it's like um, it's basically like it's really meant to describe a certain type of person who ideally they their cowardice is a different type. So basically, um, because the thing is, we all know the word coward is defined a certain way. There's all these different definitions, but nobody ever describes it in the manner that I'm describing it right now. Um, so this is Time Machines written by H.G. Wells. In like I don't know, like 100 years ago or something like that. Maybe less than 100 years. It's like so. Now keep in mind that there are underground systems that exist, but most people, I don't have a basement where I live. There are houses with basements, and that's not the same thing. It's actually not the same concept at all because you can install your conditioning. It's not the same thing, right? So, um, this type of person and this concept is rarely explored. Have it's just like the idea is that a lot of people really cannot relate with it because and they really have a hard time understanding this concept where basically um, it's a it's like a concept that it could be explored to try to add to the discussion is the idea of um, um, what's that called? I can't remember the word. It's basically um, it's it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet. Um, I have that book, or sort of. Actually, Spark Notes interpreted so to kind of make it easy. So I don't have to actually understand the difficult vocabulary, but basically, it's the idea of two teenagers rebelling because they want to get married, they want to date, but their parents don't let them, right? So, Juliet family doesn't want Juliet to get married to Romeo, and the Romeo family doesn't want Romeo to be married to Juliet. So basically, it's a lot like that. It's like you're not. It's like you know, um, we live in a modern times where I'm just like, all right. So there's two schools of philosophy that I can come up with. One is um, it's more. The first one is basically um, more moderate take. But the other one is just allow the rebel to happen, and in fact encourage it. Um, However, it is a lot like the idea that perhaps the parents are they're not trying to squash their dreams. It's just that these parents are not the abusive types, and so basically they're trying to protect them, right? However, you know, some parents they may be dead at like age 50, so they're not there anymore. For example, but for the most part, the idea is basically that even though they were, even though Romeo's parents didn't want Romeo to marry Juliet, and vice versa, um, they were actually trying, in what their opinion, they were trying to protect their child, right? Um, the earnest, they they wanted to protect their child, right? Because and let's just say that they were correct on the matter. However, was never described as a type of person that would just allow the now this is actually often compared to the criticisms of the left because the left, however, we're not describing this is not describing the ESFJ. This is a different personality. So this is what confuses people often. Often they, or Democrat or whatnot, because it's like actually the Democrats would most likely defend the parents in this case. So this is a different group that might be more extreme liberal or more extreme left. But these are not Democrats they are describing. Now, in fact, in this scenario, both the Republicans and the Democrats, if this is referring to United States politics, would defend it. I'm like, so who would not defend the parents? Would it be the extreme left? This is a problem I get sometimes, is that people are thinking in two dimensions, right? So, or actually, this is closer to one dimension. So thus, it's like the thing with Romeo and Juliet is that it's actually a great book to understand chemistry. It's just like, however, yeah, it's not the best book, and you actually have to have the correct book too. You can't, you have to be nitty picky about the cover and everything. So you have to have the right cover and everything. Anyway, however, it is not useful on its own. So let's just because the thing is, I'm trying to recap here. What did I say in like the first few minutes? It was discussed. Okay, so like in the middle of the video, I was discussing like the idea of the cave dwellers, but not really the cave dwellers. And then I went to all right. I was kind of going off tangents over a topic I really don't understand, so I'm just going to leave it there.